Hello, Internet. It's me, Addison, the dev behind Sugoi Penguin Gaming, and what's that? The new demo? Of my Liege on itch.io? Hey, that is the thing that I made. You should go check it out if you haven't already. I'm very happy with where the demo is at right now. It's the same story, roughly, as the prototype. If you were one of the lucky ones that got to play that back in September. Um, the, the story is the same, but I've added some more content to it, and the gameplay is about 90%, 95% of where I want it to be. That prototype is pretty rough, so I can't say enough how grateful I was for all the feedback people gave me, because it helped form it into an actual game now. But yeah, go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description of this video. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So for this devlog, I would like to point you towards the demo. You should go check it out. But two, I want to just talk about the three main things that I feel like I've kind of learned being a solo dev in this process. I mean, I was a developer with Fast Enterprises for 10 years. And this is just a whole different monster, working on a solo project by yourself. And I just want to highlight the main things that I've learned in this process, because I kind of want to let you guys play this. So I'm not going to highlight too many new things about the game, which this is it playing right here in Unity. But there'll be plenty of time to talk about that, and I hope to talk to a lot of you personally about your experiences playing with it. Which, let's talk about those lessons learned now. So the first one is, I've probably watched way too many Unity tips and tricks, video game indie development tips and tricks, all those sorts of videos on the internet. One of the things people harp on a lot, and this is the one that I think Game Maker Toolkit made a big point on, is making a plan. I was good at that. I had a plan from the get-go. I've been using Kanban boards on Jira to keep myself organized. I feel like I nailed that part of it. Thank you, my professional career, for that experience. What I didn't do very good at in the lesson learned is actually sticking with that plan. It's really easy while working on something like this, especially a creative endeavor, to get distracted and be like, oh, what do I want to work on today? And put off the things that you should be working on for the bright, shiny new toy. My example I have for this is I was mostly done with the UI, and I was starting to return to looking at the world visuals. And I had updated the trees to look more like fall and have a little more variety. And I was like, you know what? I just added weather in. What if the trees blew in the wind to respect the weather? So I pour a couple days into this, and I had a fun little side tangent. You can do some pretty crazy stuff with the tree physics in Unity. This is with the wind cranked up to like monsoon levels or whatnot, just super bendy trees. But I also learned that there are some restrictions there, and so there were going to be some trade-offs that I wasn't ready to make yet, because they were a bigger impact than I expected. And so I had to scrap the trees for now. Well, the bendy, windy trees. And so I ended up spending 2-3 days playing with these trees and the grass and all these things that I didn't end up using right away. And you know what wasn't in the plan? Any of that. and I was trying to keep on schedule for some deadlines that I had set for myself. And I just completely let myself get sidetracked by that. Now, the one caveat I will say is, I feel like as long as I'm working on what's in the plan, those flights of fancy for um, adding on some things that you didn't have envisioned because, oh, you're here. It'd be really easy to make this look even better or something like that. Um, I wanted to bring that up because that's essentially what happened when I was building my main menu, my title sequence. Is I had an idea. I was like, okay, I'll have the camera, maybe kind of just pan around and give you an overview of your town as you have, in the background while the menu is displayed. And then I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I can be a little more cinematic with the way the camera pans. And then I thought, well, let's make sure there's some meeples, there's some movement other than just the camera. And then all these thoughts kind of culminated me into making my current title sequence, which I'm going to play here in the background, which I obviously did not come up with the creative idea of doing something like this. A lot of you will know where this comes from. But I was just very happy with the outcome, even though I ended up spending 2, 3, 4 days on something that I probably could have done in a half day. But I'm so much happier with the outcome here. And so I obviously went with some of the cinematic camera panning, but somebody was watching Game of Thrones on the side while making this title sequence. Point being, it was in the plan. Yes, it took a little longer than I thought, but it was still, this was something I needed to have done to meet the checkpoint or the goal that I had set for myself. The trees were not. So sticking to a plan while allowing for that creative freedom to make something cool that wasn't originally my intent. Okay, the next big thing that I feel I need to take away from it, and this is something that I really should do better at, because I already had a lot of this experience with Fast, and I had a lot of this experience just watching lots of people talk about it on the internet and the importance of playtesting. And I could do a better job of this, of incremental playtestings. I feel like I did an okay job because I made a prototype and I made this demo now, and I've had people give verbal feedback on some videos of people watching me just like show something off online, but I haven't had a lot of like, here's a development build. It's gonna be partially broken, but just try this part out. I haven't done a lot of that. And I think the big part about playtesting is you yourself need to playtest. I got too into the rhythm of, okay, I'm just going to crank out new things and not be a perfectionist about it. And just, if I create a first draft, then I can come back and clean it up, but it needs to exist first. That's a big problem with me creatively, so I have a hard time getting something to just exist first. But then I never paused to actually play the game again. And so I had a lot of things come together at the end where I was fixing things I had already fixed because what I thought was wrong wasn't actually important. I'll give you an example here. Let's go back to the actual level, and I'm going to start off by showing what one of the demos did. Not the demos did, but one of the previous builds of the game did before I made some changes. Oh no. I had everything so nicely set up over here, and then I clicked away, and here's the button. So this is an earlier build. Come on. There we go. So this is going to be an earlier build of the game from about 2 weeks ago. And I want to focus on just one little thing, and it's how the meeples interact with this opening in the fence. You see some of them, like, they come in and they're gonna like not navigate this corner very well. And of course, trusting the game's random movement stuff to show you what I'm talking about it's going to take a minute. Well, essentially, meeples from over here were trying to get to here, but they would, like, overshoot the gap and get hung up over here and, like, do an awkward U-turn, like this guy here. You see what he does? And it just... There's a lot of running into the fences and just beelining it through here when really, ideally, I wanted them to walk this way and cut in. And so, before playtesting, and just staring at that one problem, I did things like I moved the fence around, I tweaked how fast they could turn, I tweaked how fast they were running in general, and I got it to an okay spot. I was fixing a lot of things without playing the game. So then, about a week ago, when I'm full-blown playtesting myself to try to break the game, I'm looking at it and I'm like, these guys, you know, sometimes they use the road, but they're running around in the fields a lot, and they're just booking it. And I realized something that, well, in a lot of games, the path is quicker to run on, and so then your characters prioritize the path. Well, Unity's got stuff for that, and so I started to implement it. And for me, what it turned into was, I'm going to turn on the nav mesh here, which is, nav mesh is the map essentially for the AI to know how to navigate. Blue and purple are walkable areas, but what I ended up adding is these big purple areas are slower to walk in, because if you're walking through a field of wheat, you're going to be slower. If you're going to be walking through pumpkins, you're going to be slower. And you'll see, the fence area, this whole area looks the same as before, but now, because the field is slower to walk through, they're prioritizing the path, and you'll see, one, the meeples look more realistic as they're walking through the field and running along the path, but you'll see they'll actually stay on the path longer and actually use this entrance if they're trying to get to this part of the field. Rather than before where, like, say this guy, he's going to now turn... No, he didn't turn. Thought I was going to guess it right. But they're not cutting this corner nearly as much. They still do it a little bit, so it could use a little tweaking. But I cleaned up a lot of this corner, and it ended up helping in a lot of other spots too. Like now, these guys will, like, actually stick to the gap in, and it's not perfect. It's hard to shape these purple sections quite right. But they're actually prioritizing the path more. And so I ended up fixing this area 2 or 3 times where I was misdiagnosing the problem because I wasn't playing the game and I wasn't looking at it as a player. I was so focused, hyper-focused on one little bit that I was never zooming out to look at the project as a whole. The last thing that I would say I've learned tons. Okay, these are the big ones. Approaching a project in Unity specifically, and I assume this is true with other game engines too, is I shouldn't be so slow to make custom objects or custom versions of Unity things. So what I mean by that is, let's just use an example. Let's go look at my UI in the editor here. So I'm gonna focus up on the canvas. Let's make it 2D so it stands out nice. And you'll see my buttons have a nice consistent look and feel now. They all share the same color, border, all this. But they didn't originally, especially in the prototype. They're all the flat, white, vanilla ones. So let me add one of those just so you can see the comparison here. So this is the normal Unity button. And I was just adding those everywhere because I was like, oh, Unity has a button. Why would I make my own? And then I got to the point where, like, okay, functionally everything's laid out. There are buttons to click. They take you places. Great. Let's make it look like my game now, not just buttons. And I was like, oh man, um, it'd be nice if all these buttons shared the same color. So I, like an idiot, thought, okay, this is annoying, but I'll do it once. I went and I changed all the buttons to use the same material, and then changed that material so they shared a color. Then a couple weeks later, I was doing the audio work, and I was like, okay, well, when I click a button, I want it to make a click sound. Well, shoot, now I gotta go to all the buttons and add an on-click event that says, hey, make this sound. I want all the buttons to make the same sound, and the very few that I might do differently, I can override. So even though I wasn't ready for any of this customization or stuff in the beginning, it would have saved me a lot of time and effort if I had done what I do have now, which is make, and I've got this folder called generic Buell fields, but I have my own, whoop, where did it go? Oh, it's not on the canvas. Oh god, it's giant. Okay, let's try this again. I've got my own versions of the, oh geez, I'm just messing things up. Come on. I've got my own version of this generic button. So now when I make a generic button, when I make my version of a button, it comes in with all the same color scheme, with all the same outlining, font, audio, all that pre-made. So, and if I want to change all of them, I can come in here and let's say I all of a sudden, no, not red. Better dead than red. So maybe I want them all be blue. Oh, I'm in play mode right now, so it's not going to do it. But now they're all blue. I only have to change one spot. And it made me realize I should be doing this with a lot more things, especially UI-based things. So moving forward, I'm going to try to be better about that. Like, hey, I'm going to have a lot of X. Even if the Unity version feels like it works perfectly good right now, let's just make a nice little wrapper. Even if my wrapper version doesn't have any extra functionality yet, it might someday, and it might save me a lot of effort, especially as this game continues to get bigger. So that's it. That's what I've got for you. And oh gosh, I just hit play, and they're gonna be blue, and they're gonna look ugly. And if you look, for some reason, if you start at the end of the video, you're gonna be like, wait, this clown thinks this is what good UI should look like? No, 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 no. That's not the right shade. I'll get that fixed. Either way, that's what I wanted to spend time on in this video. So, maybe that's helpful. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me getting to finally vocalize some of the things that I feel I learned. But, yeah, thank you for joining me. Overall plan for the demo, and I'm going to make a release trailer for this as well, is I do plan on putting it on Steam. I maybe should have talked about all this at the front end in case you didn't care about my lessons learned. But we're definitely going to be making a Steam store page. Don't expect to make a formal release date yet. My goal is summer-ish this year. But current kind of plan I foresee is making it maybe 5 to 7 levels long, where each level is a different maybe generation of your house, with a major plot point or maybe 2 major plot points running alongside, and each one has several minor smaller story events happening. Because I would like the game to if you kind of look at the flow chart of the choices, your decision tree, I want it to be a little bit wider than it is now. And then if I can find ways to make those 5 or 7 missions bleed into each other. So they might have distinct start and ends, so it's not one long game. But aspects of what happened in Mission 2 will impact how Missions 3 and 4 begin, maybe. That's kind of the big picture plan, but right now, main focus is on listening to you guys' feedback on the game and making a little bit of content about it, getting that Steam page set up, and planning ahead what my next 3-4 months are going to look like for the content creation phase of the game. And I'm really excited for that. I'm going to try to keep up for about a month, month and a half devlogs. We'll see how that goes. I don't like hopping on here just for the sake of hopping on here. I want to have something to show or something to announce. So we'll see. But thank you very much. Go check out the demo if you haven't. And I will see you guys in the future. Adios.